to this one.
Okay.
You should see up here. You're going to see that it's now streaming live
Yep.
on YouTube. You'll also see the word here. So what you want to do at that point is mute these.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Finance Committee of the New Haven Board of Alders. As always, we'll begin by reading the published notice. Aldermanic Notice, New Haven. The Finance Committee will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 13th, 2025 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Aldermanic Chambers, 165 Church Street, New Haven, to hear the following. A workshop to review portions of the annual city budgets proposed for the fiscal year commencing on July 1st, 2025. The following city departments will be heard. City Town Clerk, Mayor's Office, Registrar of Voters, Fair Rent Commission, Assessor's Office, Department of Finance, Other, Office of Policy and Grants, Corporation Council, Board of Alders. These items are filed in the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street, 2nd floor, New Haven. Per order, the Honorable Adam Marchand, Chair. Attest, Michael Smart, City Clerk. If you need a disability-related accommodation, please call 3 business days in advance at 946-7651 voice or 946-8582-TTY. Public comment/testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 o'clock p.m. on the day of the meeting. We'll now have introductions of committee members, starting to my right.
Sal DeCola, Ward 18.
Adam Marchand, Ward 25 Chair.
Sal Punza, Ward 17.
Honda Smith, Ward 30. Taisha Walker Myers, Ward 23.
Thank you, colleagues, for being here. I also wish to recognize some of our colleagues on the board who are not on the committee but are here this evening. That's Alder Frank McGanty from Ward 15, Alder Gary Hogan from Ward 28, Alder Caroline Smith from Ward 9. We thank you for being here. I also acknowledge that we have quite a wonderful assembly of city staff, some here to give presentations tonight, others here to provide moral support, no doubt, to their colleagues. When I read the notice, it used the word public hearing. That was actually not correct. This is not a public hearing. This is a public meeting, but there will be no public testimony taken tonight. There are departmental workshops, so we will hear from city staff. Members of this committee will ask questions of the city staff, but we will not take public testimony. If you are a member of the public and you're itching to give testimony, you may submit it via email right now or tomorrow or this weekend at publictestimony@newhavenct.gov. Or you may come 1 week from tonight, Thursday, the 20th of March. We'll have another series of departmental workshops, but we'll start that meeting a week from tonight with our first of 3 public hearings on the budget. The second public hearing will be on April 9th, and the third will be on April 30th. Those are the public hearings when members of the public are invited to come and testify on the mayor's proposed budget. But again, members of the public may share their testimony at any time via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov. Tonight, we'll just be doing workshops. Let me just do one more piece of housekeeping, which is if you have a phone or a pager or a laptop or a bike horn, any device that might create noise, please turn it off or make it silent. I do not want to hear ringtones. If you need to speak to someone, including someone in these chambers, take it outside. I can hear you when you're speaking behind that column supporting the ceiling. Take it outside because we want to have our undivided attention focused on the presenters. And we thank you in advance for your cooperation. So let us start with our first departmental workshop. City Town Clerk, please come forward.
Good evening.
And as always, we invite you to give your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Michael Smart, 1 Lion Street.
And you've brought back up. That's great.
Yes, that's right.
I'm just leave one for the test as well. Yes. Good. Okay.
Ron Gizzi, 219 Rainbow Terrace, Camden.
Thank you, sir. So we have your deck and we're ready to go. The floor is yours.
Okay, so our budget is pretty much a status quo. We are heading into election season, which we're gearing up for. Some of the things we're working on is staff training. We got a couple of new employees together, so we're working on making sure that they're all together as far as elections, understanding the different changes. We're upgrading our system, our IQS system to, handle more volume and, be compliant.
I'm going to interrupt you briefly, sir, just to let colleagues know that we are on page 22 of the deck that was handed to us. 22 is the city template. Sorry for that interruption. Please proceed.
That's okay. So, and then working on some changes, a couple of exciting changes, keeping us busy. These are trading certificates. That's a new system that directly goes to the state, where folks have to get their trading certificates when they're doing a DBA filed in our office. Now it goes to the state, the documents come back. So it's been some issues with banks getting that together, but we're working with the public to make sure that they understand that, and the staff is doing a good job with that. Fraud alert, we've uploaded our system now so that we have a fraud alert. So for homeowners or property owners in the city of New Haven, if anyone tries to, or is any type of activity on their deed, they sign up online, it will notify them that that's happened. So, what's going on is, all around the country has been pretty important. We've pretty much been on the budget, just working, and we're going to continue to provide services to the public. I'll take any questions that all this may have.
Thank you very much.
I would just call the attention of my colleagues to the packet that our staff provided to us. I'm sure you've seen this paperwork before. It gives a one-page summary of the agency that is before us. It shows us the personnel-related expenses rolled up as a category, the non-personnel expenses, the total, and it gives a little narrative about explaining the changes in salaries, the changes or not changes in other expenditures. It also will mention permits and fees or capital. So colleagues might also want to have that appropriate page in front of them when the agency is before us. And before we proceed, I'd like to recognize our colleague, Alder Richard Furlow, who has joined us. So, thank you for your presentation, concise. Are there questions from colleagues for our city town clerk? Questions from colleagues? Not much is changing in this budget. Questions from colleagues? We want to thank you for the work you do and the work your office does. It does a lot of different things more than people know. But one component of that, of course, is helping people, candidates for office, helping people with absentee voting. Voting is precious to us in the city, and we thank you for all your efforts in helping with our elections. So, seeing no questions at this time, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, and thank all the alders for your continued support.
Thank you.
Tonight we have a series of small departments. They may not all go that quickly, but perhaps they will. Next, we have the mayor's office. Is there a representative from the mayor's office here to speak? I see our mayor's chief of staff coming forward. And our vice chair has pointed out that the deck we received, the page 16, has information related to the mayor's office. And of course, the information our staff provided us, there's a one-page summary of the budget for the mayor's office. And before we take your name and address, I want to recognize our colleague, Alder Hannah Festa, with name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours, sir.
Sean Madison, reside at 1279 Quinnipiac Avenue in the very strong 12th ward. Appreciate you very much, listening to presentation on the mayor's office budget, Department 131. Some of the goals that we have coming up here for 25, 26. I'm going to be spending an inordinate amount of time attempting to defend the city's financial interests in federal monies coming out of Washington. I'm going to continue to work on improving and stabilizing the budget for long period for the future, and work with some of our other departments around public safety to continue to improve on public safety. There's not a tremendous change in the budget, with the exception of the migration of the Office of Labor Relations from Corporation Counsel under the auspices of the Office of the Mayor. You'll see that reflected in the overall office budget, which has grown due to that, as well as requested salary increases and an increase in contractual. Offices, we've got 12 people, 12 positions in the Office of the Mayor, and not seeking new positions this year. And I am happy to answer any questions this committee may have.
Thank you for your presentation and for that information. We'll now open the queue for questions from committee members about the mayor's office budget proposed for next fiscal year. Questions from colleagues? Alder Honda Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify, you said there's no new positions, just 12 positions?
That's right, where there's no new positions in the mayor's office, and with the exception of the migration of labor relations into the office.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Smith. Further questions from colleagues on this budget? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification, the transfer of that position to the mayor's office has no budgetary requirements, right? It's basically a wash. You're just taking the position and moving it to the mayor's office.
There are multiple positions in that office, and they will be, it's just
Transferred
organizationally.
over.
Think about it in the same way like how human resources fits inside of the CAO's office.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any financial burden or any finances that would increase due to that, but it's just a wash. It's just changing from court counsel to the mayor's office, just for clarification.
I've been doing so for a few reasons on it. One, I think it's helpful in centralizing authority when decisions have to be made quickly and at the highest level around the workforce and labor. I think it's helpful on the alignment of labor with the overall goals of the city, and I think that's efficiently accomplished in the Office of Mayor. I think it does provide opportunity for improved coordination between the Office of Labor Relations across all departments. And, probably most important, I think, is the prioritization of labor, and putting it in the Office of the Mayor, I think, sends a really important message to the city's workforce that their concerns are heard and addressed.
Just by making that move.
It's not magic, but it's, I think it's an important thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions of our mayor's chief of staff about the proposed budget for the mayor's office? Alder Frick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Madison, for your presentation. Just to continue, a quick question in regards to the transfer. Who specifically will the labor relations be reporting to? Is it a direct report to the mayor, or would it be to you?
It's to the mayor.
Okay. This may seem like a silly question, but just just so I can have it straight, this is not, so this would not be considered a coordinator position,
No,
just a director, okay. Yeah,
no, again, you know, nothing changes. I mean, organizationally, departments are housed via the budget in different places. This is an example of just changing some things up. I mean, there was times in the past in the city's history where the Office of Labor Relations resided under the Office of Mayor. This is nothing new here. It's just
Good enough, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alder. Further questions of our mayor's chief of staff on this proposed project for the mayor's office? I'm just going to ask, I'm going to keep beating that horse, but only briefly. I just want to make sure that the organizational move of the Labor Relations Department from corporate counsel to the mayor's office, it doesn't change anything around the term of office for the staff are in there, or their status, or their, how they're appointed, how they're approved. It's all the same.
all the same.
Okay. Thank you for that. Further questions for our mayor's chief of staff on this budget?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the organizational chart. Does it need to be added that it's a direct report to the mayor? Just so even, you know, residents know and just procedurally?
I would be fine with that. I will ask OMB to have that reflected. Understood.
I like organizational charts. And I didn't see it there, so I want to make sure that it's clear. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Indeed, sir, it is. Do you wish to add to this explanation?
Sure, Ron Gizzi, 219 Rainbow Terrace, Hamden. We will be moving that to the, under the mayor's office in the final book, yeah.
Great. Thank you for coming forward. to
See how
confirm that.
fast? This is why we centralize this stuff. It's very efficient.
Any further questions about the mayor's proposed budget for his office for next fiscal year? Seeing none, we thank you for your presentation.
I appreciate you all.
We invite our next presenter, representatives from the Registrar of Voters Office. And our Vice Chair points out that page 28 of the deck has information relative to that office.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So once you're settled, please, if you would, give us your names and addresses for the record.
Channel Islands, 14602 Boston. Lisa Mangum, 21 Anthony Drive.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So mostly, I think kept everything pretty much the same, even though this is a off year, it's a municipal year coming up. Just throwing in from what we learned last fiscal year with early voting, we were actually a part of the pilot for new tabulators, so I'm really excited about that. It did come with a few extra equipment, so we may end up needing your help on finding another location to help put some of our materials in so that we do not have to outsource and get a storage area for that to pay for it. That's also in here. Again, things can change because right now there is a lot of changes depending on one thing one day, depending on next. For instance, we now have an excuse absentee, so who knows how early voting may run, what days, how many days, what the hours, etc. Most of our money was to pay our workers for those early voting days, as well as our staff for after hours as well. It's really pretty much a new thing. Everything else is pretty much basic. It's the same thing that we've done in the past.
Okay. Very concise. We appreciate that. Do you have anything to add to that, Ms. Muller?
No, I think I just started in January, so I'm in the middle of this process.
Great.
So, yes.
Welcome to the role. We'll now open the queue for questions from colleagues about the proposed budget for the Registrar of Voters Office. Questions from colleagues? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for being here. Overtime increased by 10,000. What is that? Is that for the workers? Is it for our employees?
So we do have a couple of, what is it called, general funds area. So that can consist of the ballots, because we do have a new company, so it could be under the ballot situation, it could be under maintenance, it could be under, it's pretty much whatever that pertains to elections.
The overtime?
The overtime, yes.
Okay, because.
So our staff, so depending on the ballots and stuff, if we have to, gosh, can't get none of my words together. If we have to test them, that's another process. After hours, we're still supplying each bin. That's another process. So yes, overtime is not including, I'm also including early voting. So the process to start early voting up, getting the materials and all, whatever is needed there, also following the guidelines that were instructed by the state. So yes.
And what was the overtime? It went up to 10,000, increasing by 10,000.
Mm-hmm. I don't have those numbers directly in front of me. I can look those up for you, but it should be a part of our other stuff that we submitted. Forget the name of narrative or something. All of that stuff is in there, and that's just only for the workers itself, not including all the other outsourced stuff that we have to pay for.
Would the other stuff be under the rentals and contractual services that increased by 9,000?
Yes, some of that as well. And then also out housing from more electors, when you guys bring in voter cards, et cetera. So we have to mail those out. So that mailing process, that increases as well. So it's a touchy thing on many subjects.
Okay, and then I don't know if we all received the email, and I'm sorry if I'm missing something, but there's a training that's going to take place for our youth, or someone is training our youth, and I don't know if that has anything to do with any of this.
I'm not sure what you're talking
Okay,
about.
I guess we could take that offline. It came in an email, so I didn't know if we were paying for that and what budget line item that would come out of.
Older, if you will forward that to me, we will make sure we see what connection it has with the budget.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa, I appreciate that. I want to recognize our colleague, Alderman Farrar Santana, who's joined us. Did I see your hand raised, Cecily? Alder Farrar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. Welcome to our new Republican registrar. Quick question. Will there be an increase in those that work the polls?
We have not talked about that, but we can. But I know there'll be an increase of people and not just the price, if that answers.
Yeah, sure. And I assume that that's kind of blended in this number if there's an increase.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Alder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Farrar. Further questions from colleagues about the registrar of voter's office? I have a couple. So
Yes, sir.
you may have answered this in your opening narrative, but I might have missed it. The summary document we have shows that there's a significant decrease in part-time payroll. That's what the summary says. And so that tells me that you're not going to hire as many part-time people because we have fewer elections. Is that what that really is?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I figured it was, but I thought I was.
Yes.
Okay. So this year we have just the municipal cycle. There's no special elections so far. There's no presidential preference primary. So it's just the September primary and then the November general election.
And then the following year for March DTC, or I'm sorry, town meeting.
Right.
Yes.
In terms of the fiscal year, yes.
Correct.
So there'll be 3, that's right. Depending on how many people.
If there's
have
no
races.
special, yes, and if there's no special.
All right, so in terms of the proposed budget in the next fiscal year, there's really 3, but 2 definite and 1 potential set of elections.
Sure.
Thank you.
Right now, I don't know who pulled papers, because we haven't done primary petitions yet. So, but if no one pulls citywide or
It
all
could
yours,
potentially be
it could be
very
nothing.
slow primary,
Yeah.
depending if there aren't very many races.
So, but definitely a general, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. When I see a number that big, $500,000 reduction, it kind of caught my attention, so it just makes sense that there's Mr.
So,
Busy.
okay, so I didn't look to see which line item it was, so we did cut it down, I believe, but not by that much.
So I can clarify that. Ron Gizzi, 219 Raymond Terrace, Camden. We have that in the detail. So if you look at the personnel detail, the 515 is there, but there was a calculation error, so it didn't get rolled up into the summary section. So we'll correct that in the technical amendment.
Okay, so there isn't a reduction of that?
No, there's not a reduction, no.
Oh. Well, that's very helpful to know.
Okay.
So the summary information in that particular point is incorrect, but in the budget, the full budget book.
Yeah, the budget book, you'll see it in the personnel section, but it didn't get rolled up into the summary section where we have all personnel listed. Then there's a line item just for personnel. It didn't get rolled up into there.
Is that, so obviously you recommend a technical amendment, which we'll entertain before we deliberate. Does that $500,000 absence in that particular summary line mean that we're $500,000 over budget?
I haven't gotten to that detail yet,
Okay.
but we will definitely let you know if that is the case.
We'll be eager to hear how that gets resolved.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, that explains a lot.
Okay, good.
That kind of popped on the page.
Yep. I
Thank
was
you.
waiting for that.
No, thank goodness you.
I thought it was something small, I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's
No,
that
it's
much
taken up.
defined, yeah.
They're a small department. So thank you for that additional information. That clears up the question for me. Further questions from colleagues on this item? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for your help and support. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Next on our list is the Fair Rent Commission. You may stay, sir. You may stay. Well, you should grab your stuff for sure. It might save you some getting up and down. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It's page 13 of our deck that was given to us at the outset of the meeting. Good evening.
Good evening.
When you're settled, we'll take your name and address, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wildelise Bermudez. My address is 233 Front Street, New Haven. And I am the Executive Director of the Fair Rent Commission. Thank you so much for having us this evening. So regarding the budget, pretty much everything is pretty close to the same. There is a personnel cost adjustment, the second page, 3% salary increases due to the contract negotiations with the unions. We are also including additional monies to be set aside for materials and supplies, given that we have seen a very big increase in the number of cases that we've been receiving. Our caseload continues to increase, and we also recognize that in the trend where we are right now, it's going to exponentially do so. We also would like it to, through you, to see a rental and contractual services increase. And this is due to inflationary increases. And in reference to where we have been trending in terms of our highlights, like I was mentioning, we have seen a lot of cases that have come through progressively from one year to the next. If you may recall, in our last meeting that we had, it's already quadrupled, more than quadrupled in terms of the number of cases that we're receiving a year. And beyond that, through the expansion in terms of other highlights with the expansion of the tenants unions, we are now recognizing more tenants unions. We have 134 members that are registered. We've also expanded our ability to have more events throughout the community. And beyond that, we've taken more interns, so both at the high school level and as well as at the college level. in addition to the Youth at Work students. We've also produced training manuals for the commissioners who are coming in, and as well as sharing it with other municipalities. As you may be aware, according to the new state law change that occurred 2 years ago, there is now a mandatory requirement to have fair rent commissions in any municipality that has a population size of 25,000 or more. So as a result, for New Haven, because New Haven's fair rent commission is the longest continuously running fair rent commission throughout the state of Connecticut, we are the go-to. We've become the default go-to. So we receive a lot of inquiries from various municipalities requesting trainings, requesting packets. And so as a result, when we presented last session at the housing committee level, the City of New Haven's Fair Rent Commission was referred to as the golden standard in Connecticut. We're very happy with that achievement. And beyond that, we have, in the last year, made sure, obviously, that we're in compliance with everything that we need to do, updating the webpage, having all our meeting minutes recorded. Our goals and initiatives for the upcoming year are to make sure that we provide an infographic to the community. So that way you can everybody has access to quantifying and in real time seeing what our cases look like and what kind of savings are being produced as a result. Beyond that, we are now implementing a newsletter in collaboration with Elderly Services and other city departments. And by using the OC platform, another goal that we have for this upcoming fiscal year is to be able to allow for the interface of the public to have access to that dashboard. Another goal would be to train the staff that we have and to allow for certification programs, hosting more college interns, having more workshops, and of course, supporting and recognizing more tenants unions throughout the city of New Haven.
Wonderful. Does that conclude your remarks?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed, I'd like to recognize our colleague, Alder Jeanette Morrison, who has joined us. Anything to add, Mr. Deasy?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Questions from colleagues of our Director of the Fair Rent Commission? Fair Rent Commission, Alder Walker Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I was trying to write real fast. What was the number of tenant unions we have or people registered?
We currently have 7 registered tenants unions. And through your work, we were able to update the ordinance. You all approved the ordinance amendment change for the Fair Rent Commission so that we lowered the threshold for tenant union recognition from if you live in a building that has used to be 10 units or more, now the threshold is 5 units or more. Should you be interested in becoming a tenants union, you now have that ability. On the record, we have 7, and there is one that's coming online very soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Walker Myers. Further questions from colleagues? I see Alder Festa and then Alder Front.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations for being the gold standard.
Thank
Regarding your office, you also hear from landlords, correct? Not just tenants,
That's
just for
correct.
clarification, because
Yes.
that kind of gets confusing sometimes, and we get, I don't know, I've gotten calls from landlords, and I tell them to call your office. I want to make sure that's the correct thing to do.
Yes, that is correct. We receive calls from both tenants, landlords, tenant union representatives, tenant union members, New Haven Legal Aid. Sometimes they refer a lot of cases to us as well. We also receive referrals from other departments, our friends at LCI, sometimes the health department, 211, housing court, the library, and also New Haven Public Schools.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful because that explains the caseload too. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Next on the queue is Alder Fairwell, and then after him, the queue will be open.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. The implementation of BoA, is there a cost for that? And if so, do you have a roundabout figure? I imagine there's additional software that might be needed.
There is a cost for VOC to the city, but my understanding is that the city has a direct contract with VOC that is streamlined through, and Ron can speak more to this in terms of.
I got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Fairwell. Further questions about the Fair Rent Commission and its proposed budget for next fiscal year? Fair Rent Commission. I have a question. When I look at, again, I'm looking at the summary document, although it looks like the same in the deck. I see that the delta in percentage terms for the personnel portion of your budget is 14.3%. And that to me sounds more than contractual increases would account for. So I'm wondering, are there reorgs, reclassifications, or increase in hours? How do you get to 14.3%?
There's a part-time position in there. It wasn't listed in the full-time 13 positions like the mayor was requesting, but this was a part-time position.
There was a part-time.
Yeah, there's one part-time and there's a new part-time position.
A new part-time.
Yes.
So it's an additional part-time.
Yes.
Which I probably saw in the overview, but didn't remember.
I think we just had the full-time positions on the overview. We didn't have the part-time, one part-time.
So this is an additional new position that we
Yes.
perhaps have not gotten.
Right.
Heads up.
Correct.
Okay. So I can imagine what the answer is for why you need another part-time position, but please say more about that.
Yes. So as I mentioned before, our department has from day one incrementally increased in the number of cases. And the reason for that has been a couple of reasons. One, when we were phasing out of COVID and there's no more moratorium for evictions and whatnot, our caseload started to increase. Also, with more visibility and more workshops in the community, more outreach being done, that also increased. There's also a trend that's happening nationally and as well at the state level, where we understand that we have a housing shortage, a housing crisis. And at the same time, we also have a lot of investors who are coming in and purchasing property. And the folks who have been in the city of New Haven, who have been longtime tenants, all of a sudden are receiving rental increases that are excessive, that would allow us for them to file a complaint with us. And so you have this trifecta of all these elements that are playing out in real time, along with, of course, what we're seeing now, which is people just scrambling and trying to figure out what's going to happen, the instability that's occurring. So all of that is really dictating to us what's happening within the housing market and how it's impacting the tenants. Another piece, I'm not sure if you're aware of, but in the state of Connecticut, the Attorney General's office has been signed on to a lawsuit. And we are one of 7 states in the nation regarding artificial intelligence that is being used to allow an offset in what the market will trend, how the market is going to trend. So in other words, if you are, and this isn't happening for everybody, but it is something that is happening for some in New Haven. If you're a landlord who might use this specific type of artificial intelligence software, and you have signed on to it, and the software is dictating to you how much the market can bear for that specific unit, and let's say you're making a proposal to your tenant that the market can bear a 50% increase, the tenant reaches out to the Fair Rent Commission and they say, I now have a 50% rental increase, 80% rental increase. I'm being told that the market will bear this rate to go up at this amount. And so I just wanted to inform in case you haven't heard of it, but it is something that the Attorney General's office is looking at. We have been asked, is that playing out in New Haven? Yes, it is.
Well, that's stunning. I've heard of such technology being used to support dynamic pricing in other sectors of the consumer economy, air flights and such, right? Companies want to maximize their revenue, so they try to figure out how much they can charge. I had not heard that it spread to the housing market, because you kind of think about longer term leases and such. You don't really fit, but it sounds like they're used to it.
Yes.
Oh boy, okay. So back to the additional part-time position. Can you say a word about why it makes sense to have an additional part-time position as opposed to turning the existing part-time position into a full-time position?
We understand the realities that we are in as a municipality, and having an additional part-time would be helpful in terms of potential long-term cost savings. And health insurance is certainly something that is very expensive. And so if we, in terms of making the request, if at minimum we can have the part-time, that would be great.
But it's benefit level, correct?
Yeah, so we would want to.
That's your proposal. It's not like a temporary worker who's making, like, doing 19 hours per week or something like that.
Right.
Okay. Because the benefit costs, at least in terms of medical, are the same regardless.
You're saying for benefit for the part-timer?
Well, I'm just trying to understand what advantage it has. And maybe there's an operational advantage to have two people who are part-time as opposed to one person who's full-time. I was just trying to understand why are you proposing that as opposed to ramping up your part-time person to full-time?
It would be under the threshold for benefits. It would be a 19-hour
It would be
position.
19
Yes.
hours person.
Yes.
Yeah, you asked if it was benefit or no benefit? Yes,
No,
exactly, no
to the
benefit,
department,
yes.
yes.
So it is
benefit
a
to the
sub-benefit level part-time position. Okay. Perhaps that's why it wasn't highlighted in the overview.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. I appreciate it. Any other questions and comments? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation and all of your good work.
Thank you very much.
So next, we will hear from the assessor's office. Thank you, Alder DeCola. The deck, page 10, has the information about the assessor's office. Also, if you're following along in the packet provided by our staff, it's just the next page. Long time no see. Name and address for the record, please.
Long time no see. Good evening, everyone. Alex Pullen, 6 Pequot Avenue, North Haven, Connecticut, acting city assessor.
Floor is yours.
So I'm here to present the budget for the assessor's office, number 139. If we go to the slide deck, let's go to page 12. Here I'll talk about the goals and initiatives that we have this year, because our budget is not very interesting this year. It's pretty flat. So in terms of what we are doing, as I explained to the committee on Monday, legislation that recently was passed last week is causing the assessors to have to republish the grand list. And this is something that we will have to do by April 15th in order to make sure that we're in compliance with the new legislation. It's beneficial to the city because it allows us to change the motor vehicle depreciation schedule, which puts more money into the city's pocket. So that is a lot of what we will be doing for the next few months. We're also going to be working alongside LCI and economic development to keep revising and updating our assessment deferrals so that everything is in a manner that people can understand. Right now it's somewhat confusing. It was recently reapproved, where there are now different tiers of the same assessment deferral program. So our goal is to make sure that all of the residents who may benefit from these programs understand them. Other than that, we are training new staff in administrative functions and updating policies and procedures to reflect all of these new changes. One of which would be the motor vehicle depreciation. Another would be the new veterans homestead exemption that was passed for this year. And also, we are continuing to defend the appeals, the tax appeals from the 2021 revaluation. Those are almost done because it's almost time for a new revaluation, but there are still a few left. And as always, the ones that are still around in the end are the difficult ones. Now on to the actual budget. So this year, the assessor's office had a status quo budget with no changes aside from contractual salary increases. The departmental budget is just over 952,000, which is about 28,000 above last year's figure of 933. I'll briefly walk you through each line item and what it covers, and then proceed to answer any questions that you may have. Salaries, our office is unique in that about 95% of our budget is salaries. We are bare bones when it comes to the other line items, but again, I'm going to walk you through. So the salary is 905,000, represents the 11 positions in the assessor's office, 1 in executive management, 4 in 3144, and 6 in local 884. I think that's the right math. Overtime. Our overtime line item is listed as $3,000, and this is for our staff to assist the Board of Assessment Appeals. They do this after hours, evenings, and weekends, particularly in the month of March, and for 1 week in September during the motor vehicle session of the Board of Assessment Appeals. We next have a line item for professional meetings of $7,000. This includes our annual assessor school at UConn, which is 1 week every year. We drive up there. We stay over at the internet stores. And it is required in order for us to keep up our CCMA, which is our Connecticut Certified Mass Appraisal designation, that we need to recertify every 5 years. In addition to that, this professional meetings line item would cover the appraisal licenses of our appraisers in-house, which have to be updated every 2 years. Next, we have books and maps for $7,150. This is our Marshall & Swift cost guide, which basically tells you how to price out a house from scratch, how much it would cost to rebuild an office building, things of that nature. It also includes the motor vehicle pricing guides and our online access to the DMV database. We have to pay them, it's not free. We next have a line item of $500 for ads. It doesn't seem like much, but this does cover all notices which we are statutorily mandated to send out. Some of these include the elderly exemptions, tax exempt forms, veterans exemption forms, and basically just the stuff that we have to send out. Registration dues and subscriptions is the next line item, $4,000. This constitutes the membership dues for our professional organizations, such as the CAAO, the Connecticut Association of Assessing Officers, the IAAO, that's the International Association of Assessing Officers. And what having membership to these two societies does is it helps us earn discounts when we're booking conferences or when we are booking seminars that we need to go to. And it also helps us keep up with our continuing education to make sure that we're up to date on industry trends and that we don't fall behind other cities. Next, we have our other contractual services for $8,000. This mainly covers our mileage reimbursement up to UConn Assessor School and meals and other travel-related expenses, as well as any appraisal-related expenses that may fall for the city and not with one of the outside contractors we also have working on tax appeals. Our temporary and part-time help line item for $10,000. This is just for our interns. We have 2 college interns working in our office now. They work in the summertime and they work as needed during the school year. Not too much because they got to focus on their grades and that's what's important. Lastly, the Board of Assessment Appeals line item for $10,000. This constitutes the salaries for the 3 appointed BAA members and their 1 paid secretary plus supplies. This year, they don't have a secretary yet, so we have our office assisting them with those duties. That is the breakdown of our status quo budget, status quo plus contractual increases in personnel, and there are no new positions added. And that's it. That's all I got for you.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. We'll now take questions from committee members of Mr. Paul. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for that presentation, and we thank you again for appearing on Monday to update us on the grand list. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe you're up next. It's Department of Finance Other, and maybe our comptroller is coming forward as well. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It's page 7 of the deck that was provided us. Name and address for record.
Sure. Dr. Christy Samperi.
Swing the audio.
Dr. Christy Samperi, 222 Ashman Street, New Haven, Connecticut, 06519, City Controller.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So the Department of Finance houses about 7 to 8 different departments. Under the controller, there's payroll and pension, the tax collector, tax assessor, receivables and collections, finance, compliance, contract auditor, accounts payable, internal audit, and purchasing, as well as central services. Would you like to hear a brief description of every one of those departments, or are you good?
I think we're good. But thank you.
You're welcome. So if we're moving on to page 8, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what finance and my vision for the city is. I'm looking to modernize the city and modernize our financial systems as well. So the first, streamlining financial applications and digital systems. To enhance consistency and integration across all city departments, we are actively streamlining our financial applications and processes. This means eliminating redundancies, enhancing cross-departmental collaboration, and researching cutting-edge financial management software. By doing so, we can create a more cohesive and transparent financial ecosystem that both benefits both city employees and residents alike. An example of this is having a greater push for vendors and businesses doing business with the city to utilize a New Haven invoice system when submitting their invoices. Instead of sending it directly to employees who may enter the invoice not in a timely manner, the New Haven invoice system will ensure that there's tracking and timely efficiency of submitting the invoices and also of payment. Enhancing data security and regulatory compliance. As stewards of public funds, safeguarding sensitive financial information is paramount. We are strengthening our cybersecurity measures and ensuring our systems are fully compliant with federal and state regulations. These efforts not only protect taxpayer data, but also bolster trust in our financial operations. Leveraging real-time financial reporting and smarter decision-making. Budget tracking and financial planning must be as dynamic as the world around us. By utilizing real-time financial reporting tools, we are giving our leaders the ability to make data-driven decisions that enhance efficiency, reduce waste, and keep us fiscally responsible. Real-time insights will allow us to respond quickly to economic changes and allocate resources where they are needed most. Part of this is through Paymentus that you all unanimously voted on, so thank you very much. Expanding AI-driven analytics and automation. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing financial systems, risk assessment, and fraud detection. New Haven is looking to embrace more AI-driven analytics to enhance our predictive capabilities, improve financial planning, and proactively identify fraudulent activities. This approach will help us maintain financial integrity while reducing costs and increasing operational efficiency. Improving accounts payable and receivable systems. Managing cash flow effectively is critical to maintaining city services. We are looking to modernize our accounts payable and receivable systems to speed up processing times, reduce delays, and improve overall financial efficiencies. These improvements will strengthen our city's fiscal health and ensure vendors and contractors receive timely payments, foster stronger partnerships with local businesses, such as getting our ACH system back up and running, which, as you know, was all shut down due to the fraud that occurred 2 years ago with First Student. Implementing advanced tax collection strategies. A strong tax collection system is the backbone of any city's financial well-being. Through enhanced automation, data analytics, and proactive taxpayer engagement, we will continue to strengthen our revenue streams while making the process more seamless for residents. This will also be enhanced through payments as well. So the more services we're able to provide as far as payment services, the more likely we are to receive payments. Expanding online and digital payment options. In an effort to meet the evolving needs of our residents, we are expanding our online payment options. This includes integrating mobile payments, digital wallets, text-to-pay, and even cryptocurrency transactions to enhance taxpayer convenience. By embracing modern payment solutions, we are making it easier than ever for residents and businesses to fulfill their financial obligations efficiently and securely, while at the same time enhancing the city's ability to receive real-time cash flow figures coming into the city. Is there any question?
Is that the end of your presentation?
No, I have more. It's just the end of that page.
No, I'll let you know.
Okay. So page 9.
So now you're getting into the numbers.
Yeah, so now here's the numbers.
Let's hear them.
Okay. So the first part of our budget is that we're actually increasing our budget by approximately $220,000. That increase is due to 2 new positions that we are trying to create. The first is a deputy controller, and the second is a chief data officer. The deputy controller, this position, the only reason why I asked for it is because it's stated within the city charter that the controller should have a deputy controller. I have about 5 key points, if you'd like to hear them, of why it would be good.
Please tell us why would it be good to have a deputy controller?
So the first one is strengthen financial oversight and compliance. A deputy controller would provide additional oversight in ensuring financial integrity, compliance with regulations, and adherence to best practices in governmental accounting. They would help mitigate financial risks and enhance transparency in budgeting and reporting. Support the city controller in strategic initiatives. With increasing financial modernization efforts, the controller needs to support in implementing strategic initiatives such as real-time financial reporting, AI-driven forecasting, and improved cash flow management. I also would like to look into alternative revenue streams and different ways of moving the city forward through modernization. The deputy controller would help execute these initiatives efficiently. Improve budget and financial planning. Managing city finances require robust planning. A deputy controller would ensure smoother budget preparation, expenditure tracking, and long-term financial sustainability. Enhance efficiency in accounts payable and receivable. Modernizing payment processing systems and optimizing cash flow requires dedicated leadership. A deputy controller can oversee improvements that reduce processing delays and enhance vendor relationships. Continuity and succession planning. In the absence of the city controller, a deputy controller would provide stability and ensure uninterrupted financial operations. This role also serves as a natural successor for leadership continuity. And then I have another 6 points for the chief data officer. If you'd like to hear them.
Please.
Okay. The enhanced data-driven decision-making for the chief data officer. A chief data officer would centralize data governance, ensuring that city departments use reliability, high-quality data to make informed policy and financial decisions. This person will also help generate financial reporting, improve financial and operation efficiencies. The city of New Haven is looking to invest in AI-driven analytics and real-time financial reporting. A chief data officer would oversee the integration of these technologies to improve forecasting, fraud detection, financial reporting, and service delivery. Enhanced data security and compliance. With increasing cybersecurity threats, a chief data officer would implement stronger data protection policies, ensuring compliance with local, state, and federal regulations while protecting sensitive financial and taxpayer information. Break down data silos across departments. Many city departments work independently, leading to fragmented data systems. A chief data officer would facilitate integration, allowing for better coordination between finance, public works, emergency services, and other agencies. Support smart city initiatives. With a focus on modernization, a chief data officer can lead data-driven initiatives to enhance urban planning, transportation, sustainability, and public safety. By hiring a deputy controller, the city of New Haven will strengthen financial leadership, enhance budget oversight, and ensure long-term fiscal sustainability. A chief data officer will drive data governance, improve citywide efficiency, and enhance financial reporting. Together, these roles will help New Haven achieve financial modernization and better serve its community. The next part is overtime costs are stable. I have told everyone in my department that they need to be able to manage their time better on a 9 to 5, and that overtime is not allowed unless it's something very urgent, and that the majority of all of the overtime budget is to go to police, fire, and Department of Public Works. So our overtime costs are relatively the same. There's no movement there. Allowance and travel, that has remained the same. There's a slight increase of about $25, and that's only because it's additional travel for finance-related training, conferences, and compliance meetings. Professional development initiatives are key for financial personnel. And materials and supplies are rising. The budget for materials and supplies increased to $220,000 from $110,000, so essentially it's doubled in fiscal 2024 and remains at that level through 2026. This cost stabilization suggests a focus on essential purchases such as office equipment, software upgrades, and financial reporting tools. Contractual services are declining. 58% of the department's budget is allocated to rentals and contractual services. This share is decreasing due to improved vendor contract negotiations and reduced reliance on external consultants. Automation and efficient improvements reduce the need for certain contractual services. The budget reflects a strategic shift towards strengthening internal financial leadership with the addition of a deputy controller and chief data officer. While maintaining stability in other cost areas, New Haven is positioning itself for long-term fiscal efficiency and stronger financial management. And I'm all set with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We appreciate that. Did you want to add anything?
Sure. The main thing I wanted to add is the $7 million that's in other contractual. That does include our IT department as well. So that's $5 million is for IT. We do have the IT director here, chief technology officer here. If you'd like him to come up and talk about the IT department.
Well, I would just note that in our summary sheet, it just reminds us that there's capital projects that are proposed as part of this year's capital budget.
There is.
A lot of them have to do with software.
Right.
So capital budget is also important. So if the chief technology officer can speak to those particular project proposals, we'd be glad to hear it.
Okay, sure.
And when you're ready, sir, we'll take your name and address for the record.
Michael Smeo, 639 Tamarack Road, Cheshire, Connecticut. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the City of New Haven and the Board of Education.
Great, thank you.
Our technology budget has remained flat from last year. So there hasn't been any substantial increases except for the Um, The pay increases for the union staff members, about 42,000 for the staff. We are going to have two technicians retiring this year, so we'll be going out to replace those positions. As for the capital projects, we talked a lot about, I know Christie talked a lot about technology and security and all that, so that falls under my domain of making sure all those projects get installed properly and properly secured to protect the city. As for the capital projects, the types of projects that we are doing are basically infrastructure-based projects, trying to improve our aging technology infrastructure throughout the city, meaning network switches in different buildings. It looks like that once we install a new piece of equipment, some of the old equipment doesn't work right with it. So then we go off and purchase other equipment to accommodate that. We're always updating our cyber technology. So any new software updates or any new softwares that come out that we can leverage in the cyber area, we're taking advantage of that also. We're also looking at improving our training with our staff more in the cyber area, so we don't have to depend on external consultants for that. I don't have a list of the particular capital projects that we're looking to do, but a lot of the projects that some of the other departments, like you heard about, I believe it was in the fair rent area where they're going to VOC to create the interface. That interface comes out of the IT budget for them to create that. So, and any of those other VOC projects that the departments have.
So the total capital budget for request for IT is $5 million. And again, as Michael mentioned, most of that is for infrastructure, 3.3 million.
Okay. Any further information you want to share?
No, unless you have anything to ask.
I think we might. So we'll now move to questions from the committee members of the staff about the finance, Department of Finance and other. We talked a lot about finance and about IT and about capital. We didn't talk a lot about other, although our new Director of Management and Budget addressed a number of those other items in her overview around other contractual services and vacancy savings, but those two are fair game for questions from colleagues. So the queue is open. Questions from committee members about this area of our budget. Alder Trustado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your presentations. There is, on our sheet here, there's the addition of the Deputy Controller at 132,000, but I don't see it for the Chief Data Officer. What is the?
It's 90,000.
So
That, it brings it to around 220.
So the Deputy Controller is at 132,000 and the Chief Data Officer at 90,000. Okay. And the capital budget, you know, you mentioned the 5 million more in IT. And you mentioned some of the initiatives there. Here it says 3.3 million. What else on our list? Is it the software licensing, network upgrades? All that is included in that 5 million.
That's all included, all the software licensing is included into that.
Okay, so what was mentioned in Dr. Samperi's presentation was something, I wrote it down. Oh, 220K increase. And that some of it was for software.
Oh, yes, that's
equipment.
Yes, that's in the materials and supplies line. So if you look from fiscal year 2023, it was 110,000. And then fiscal year 2024, it doubled to 220,000 and it remains constant to 2026. So that increase, and you also have to remember that it's also factoring in inflation. So the cost of everything has increased. And so that 220,000 will also help with essential purchases such as office equipment, software upgrades, so that's also IT, and financial reporting tools.
Okay, and that's where my question lies, is that that's not part of the capital budget, some of those items, the software that you're speaking of, and some of that equipment is not,
No.
it's separate from, so what is?
No, so for example, Paymentus was not part of the capital budget, but it will come out of my line item, out of materials and supplies,
Okay,
to help pay for initiatives like that.
okay.
So I would be paying for that, not IT, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, well, what was that? I was looking for clarification as to what the capital budget entailed versus that software equipment. So
So
it's two separate.
So the capital budget, we can't be paying for reoccurring software. If it's a new software, first time we're purchasing something, that's fine, but then they're reoccurring. So that 220 covers existing software, renewals, anything else. And then again, part of that 5 million, that's the majority of it, which is like Will Louise was mentioning, for our VOG system, all that is included in there. Our accounting system, Munis, that's a large portion of that 5 million is included in that as well.
Okay, no, I appreciate the clarification on the continuing software, what budget that comes out of and what is in the capital budget. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions about the Department of Finance and other? Department of Finance and other. I have a couple perhaps. One is various organizations have increased by $134,855. What is that?
Which one are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at the roll-up document that our staff provided us. And so it's in the other part of finance, right?
Okay,
Let's take organizational subsidies and such. So are there new organizations that we're proposing to subsidize? Are we increasing those subsidies?
We had 2 new.
That'd be great to know.
Let me just get to that section.
It's like 401 perhaps? 404. Yeah.
Okay. So we have.
That's not going to tell you what you're looking for. You could just see what we're looking at. So.
Okay, so, all right, so now we have, there was an increase to probate court.
Okay.
That was a $9,800 increase. We've been steady at that for $30,145 for many years. They're coming to us more for more, basically it's covering their phones. There's some agreement, some statute that they referenced that we need to cover their phones. The other additional 125,000 is for the Democracy Fund, and that's been every other year. It ranges from 250 to 100 and then back to 250 again, and then around 125. So this is an odd year for the Democracy Fund. And that's what covers.
That's 134,855. Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Expenditure reserve reduced by $900,000. Is that contract reserve? Is that what that is? Or is it expenditure reserve? Tell me more about that.
That one, I believe that is, we're reducing that to just to balance it out more. So I don't think we're going to have as much as an expenditure reserve, so that's why we're reducing that.
Am I remembering this incorrectly? Is that the same as contract reserve? Is that fund there to deal with? It's not.
No,
This is
savings.
Anticipated.
This is like an anticipated savings that we had planning on.
Okay.
So we did reduce that.
All right. So it's kind of like this is the tightening the belt fund.
Exactly.
Yes. And we're going to be more modest in how much we think we might be able to tighten our belt.
Yes.
Okay.
Pardon the colloquialism, I'm just trying to remember what it is. Okay, thank you so much. Employee benefits, I understand that. Self-insurance, I understand that. Pension, our payments are going up. That's just what we have to do. Okay, I think I'm good. Further questions from colleagues about Department of Finance, other? Alder Festa?
Mr. Chair, thank you. And you missed one. The debt service decreased by 2.9 million.
I didn't ask about that because our Director of Management and Budget explained that a couple nights ago.
Maybe.
But thanks for pointing it out.
I just want to make sure.
Glad
But
you paid
maybe
attention.
just,
More information on that?
yes,
Sure.
you know, it doesn't
So-
hurt to hear it twice.
Yeah, we did have some reductions in, we had a refunding, so that cut down on our debt service. That was the main thing on it. And I think the budget director did explain that pretty well in the.
And in fact, she hopes for future refunding
Yes,
savings,
exactly.
but not able to say it just yet.
No, but we're, of course, we're working on that,
Yes.
actively pursuing that.
Okay, and that was the conservative number that she gave us,
Yes,
if I
she did,
remember
yeah.
correctly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I did not bring that presentation, but to refer back to.
No, that's okay. The fog cleared, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues on this portion of the budget? Alder Punzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the IT budget, that includes, I think you mentioned it at the beginning, it includes Board of Ed. So
No, this is just the city's IT budget. The Board of Ed
has their own IT.
has their own IT budget.
Got it. Thank you very much.
You know, he just works for the city
Got it.
and the.
I understand. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You will have your chance, Alder Punzo, when the Board of Ed is before us. I know you look forward to that, as do I. Further questions from colleagues? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next on the list is the Office of Policy and Grants. And what page are we on? Page 19 of the deck. Thank you, Alder.
Okay, so I will be covering the Office of Policy Management and Grants tonight. And in that division, we do have the Management and Budget Department, we have Workers' Comp, we have Accounting, Treasury, Grants Administration, and Employee Wellness as well.
Thank you, and I'm going to interrupt you briefly just to let my colleagues know that the director of this office informed me in advance that you would not be able to be here this night. But we're glad that you're here to fill in your place. Thank you.
Okay, so some of the, I'll just go over the goals quickly on here. We're working on the 24 audit right now, and then, you know, it's every year, so that's one of our goals is to get the 25 audit done timely. Another thing we're working on is enhancing grant management. We do have a grant person in our office now, and she's doing a great job helping departments find grants, developing a better grant policy for the city. We just met with someone for a tracking system for grants, so that will be very helpful. And we're always supporting departments financially, giving them support to help with the process. And we work closely with Dr. Sampieri, constantly, Shannon, myself, and Dr. Sampieri. And the employee wellness, we're always just trying to expand that employee wellness to participation and support for that. Okay, so basically the same increases for personnel costs. It's driven by a 3% increase for executive management and the executive management as well. I think I'm on the wrong page. Yes, okay. So, yeah, so that's basically 3144 employees and executive management employees. We do have a small overtime budget, and that's in a small other personnel. We try to maybe have some interns coming in on that. And our other contractual line, the main thing in that other contractual line is the audit services. And that's probably between around $450,000 a year for that. We are going up for an RFP on that this year. Let's see, what else do we have here? So not, again, flat budget, nothing really changing. Just the personnel. The other thing, which is another technical amendment, we do have the chief data analyst or chief data officer in this budget, and here we'll move it over to finance, just to move the 90,000, just to no effect on the bottom line on that. And I think that's about it for.
You want to say a few words about the capital budget associated with this department?
So
there are 3 projects listed: rolling stock, grants for municipal projects, and LoSiP.
Okay, so the LoSiP, that is at the Public Works. Oh, excuse me. That's at Public Works. We get a grant. We're sending the state in. We're giving them projects that we're doing, and then we're getting reimbursed for that. Rolling stock is under our office. We centralized that at some point. We did at one point have a rolling stock for police. We had a rolling stock for fire. Now it's all centralized under our office. We did increase that. Our fleet is aging. Police cars are aging. We were able to get, fire trucks are aging. We were able to get a couple plow trucks at a pretty good price. So that helped right before the last storm. So that was helpful. So all that is under there's a rolling stock committee. So which the CAO is on that, Director of Public Works, Shannon McHugh is on that, and that's about it for rolling stock. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, I think that was it.
Yep, rolling stock, grants for municipal projects, and LoSiP. That's what we have in our summary sheet.
So the grants for municipal projects, that's directly from the state. That'll be the State Bond Commission will issue those grants. We actually just got a couple for engineering, and that's part of the reason why we're asking for 2 positions in engineering to help with that, to keep those projects moving.
So this is where those monies are listed in the budget, but they come from the state.
Yeah.
So they're not part of the $60 million that were.
That's in addition. Yeah, that's in addition to the 60 million.
This is just
we do have that listed separately in the budget book. And again, with the 2 positions in engineering, they're not revenue generating like the traffic and parking or the building inspection, but they do help us move the projects along.
Mm-hmm.
So the state is looking and saying, okay, yeah, these projects are moving. We can give them more funds for projects. So we'll help with that. So, not really revenue generating, but we'll be getting more from the state.
Look forward to talking with our city engineer about that.
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you for that additional information. Questions from colleagues about the OM? It's not OMB, that's what I used to call it.
Yeah.
It's the Office of Policy and Grants, OPG.
OPMG.
OPMG, Office of Policy Management
and Grants.
OPMG. We're missing an M. Okay. Alder Honda Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being here. I just have a question on the rolling stock. You may mention that the fire department is up next because of their equipment is overdue. What is the cost for a fire truck that they're looking like? It's millions.
We purchased one with ARPA funding that was over $4 million, and they're still building it. There's not too many companies in the country that build fire trucks, and we're still on the waiting list for that. Yeah, it was a lot,
Yeah, I do
and it
understand
does take
that.
a while.
I do understand that it's a backlog on the building.
Yes.
So what is your expectation about when you think that that truck will be in?
That one, we're hoping for around December 2026. But again, that company, I forget where they are, somewhere in the Midwest. And yeah, it's, everybody in the country is buying fire trucks with their ARPA funds.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll have another chance to talk about fire trucks when the fire department is here. They might be able to shed more light on it as well. Thanks for those questions, Alder Smith. Further questions from colleagues? Alder Festa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just staying on the topic of rolling stock, is DPW, we have aging plows and aging refuse trucks and recycling. What is the plan for that? And if there is a plan, 6.2 million seems like a very low amount.
Well, it all comes down to resources. We allocate the resources as best we can, making things priorities, but Public Works is included in that number as well. And again, that's the rolling stock committee would be working on that. I'm sure we can get you some of that information to see what's in the pipeline. And then when CAO comes to their night to testify, they can probably give you better information on that.
Yeah, and I'm sure once DPW comes before us, as well as
Exactly, yes.
police, fire, we'll have a better idea, but just curious as to how this amount came to be about, since a fire truck alone is about $4 million, that doesn't leave much room for other stock, rolling stock that is also expensive, such as the refuse trucks and plows, et cetera.
Hopefully, we're not going to need to buy a fire truck with this $6 million.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Alder for Santana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If you could make sure that mic is close to you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The rolling stock is, you indicated you do for all city departments, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And I believe, if I recall correctly, I'm just trying to remember, you do a 5-year rolling stock or a 3-year?
For the capital allocation, it's 2 years.
2 years.
So every 2 years.
I wasn't sure.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking. I was trying to remember. And each department is supposed to come with you with their most aging.
Yeah, that would go to the committee, the rolling stock committee.
Yep.
And they'll make that decision.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder for Santana. Further questions on this portion of our city budget? Alder Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one other question. Do you put the rolling stock in a rotation of who received vehicles prior? How is the rotation closed?
I think it's more based on what the need is. We're not going to try to purchase everything at once. So it is in different batches, I guess we can say. So, as new ones are coming in, old ones are aging out. And I think the police cars are one of them that are very, they're hard on the police vehicles. There's a lot of turnaround on those.
So my next question would be, so you said police cars are hard on. So if the police have received a slew of cars in 2024 and they have 12 cars go down, are you going to do another set of cars instead of going to the next department that's a part of the rolling stock?
Well, police is always going to be a priority, but again, that would be a better question for the CAO or for the rolling stock committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alder Festa, you wanted to ask another question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Electrification. I know it's, does any of the rolling stock entail any hybrid or electric vehicles? I promised my New Haven Climate Movement folks that I would be asking these questions because
We do have, I forget how many there are, it's between 35 and 40 electric vehicles now that we're using. So we have been pursuing that. That's our climate office has been pursuing that. And we actually just got approved for a rebate on those. We're going to be getting some money back from the IRS on that. So that's great. But again, that would be a more specific question for either Rolling Stock Committee or CAO's office.
Okay. Do you know if it was discussed in the Rolling Stock Committee meetings?
I don't remember. I wasn't on that Rolling Stock Committee.
Okay. I guess we'll ask the appropriate department. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. That's important. Sounds like we should ask when the CAO is here.
Yes.
Could you just remind us, once again, to the best of your recollection, which coordinators and department heads are on that committee?
I know CAO is on that committee. The Public Works Director is on that. I think maybe Deputy CAO is on that as well.
Budget Director.
Yeah, Budget Director. I think there's one or two more that's escaping me right now.
Great, thank you. Any other questions about rolling stock or about other capital or about other budgetary issues that we've heard in this portion of our budget? Seeing none, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
I'll just stay.
You can stay, of course.
Not you.
Next, we have Corporation Counsel, which has turned out the Corporation Counsel's office is here. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. It's page 25 in the deck that we were given. We might need to create a little more space. Good evening.
Good evening. You can hang back.
Yeah. What about Paula?
Okay. Once you've settled, we'll ask for your names and addresses for the record.
Corporation Counsel Posse is here. Patricia King, Corporation Counsel, 32 Vista Terrace.
Michelle McRae, 175 South End Road, East Haven.
Hi, I'm Catherine Lamar. My office address is 165 Church Street.
Hi, Rod Williams, 20 Lancelot Drive, North Haven.
The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. As with everybody else, we're pretty much a status quo budget here. There is a reduction in the numbers due to the transfer of the Office of Labor Relations from under the Corporation Counsel to the Mayor's Office, which I think Mr. Marison addressed. So from an administrative point of view, I think it makes sense. It doesn't affect anything about the operation of our office or the Office of Labor Relations. The Labor Relations attorneys are not members of our attorneys union, as they're confidential employees, and the Labor Relations Director job description, under the Labor Relations Director's job descriptions, they answer to the mayor. So it made more sense administratively, I think, and for the reasons that Mr. Madison stated, to move them to the mayor's office. There are no new positions for us this year, although I do have to thank you very much for the position we got last year for the LCI attorney. That has made a big difference, and I believe the numbers are that they've placed 72 liens so far, so they will turn out to be hopefully a revenue generator for the city, and also have basically stepped up the city's housing enforcement, rental housing enforcement, and there's more work to be done in that area, but that attorney has been a welcome addition to our office, and to LCI as well. And we've developed a very good relationship with them, and we hope to keep moving forward with other improvements that need to be made. But we are grateful for that. We still have one vacant position, which is an attorney who would be assigned to the Board of Ed. We have one attorney currently assigned to advise the Board of Ed who has been there since, I think, 2019. We have been looking for another attorney. The Board of Ed has been involved in that process and has, to date, not found a candidate that has been acceptable to them. But we continue to look, and we hope to possibly interview somebody soon. So it would be helpful for us to have somebody in that position, because then that would allow the Board of Ed, the attorney currently assigned to the Board of Ed to move back to our office and could help out with litigation and transaction matters, because that attorney is kind of a utility infielder and can do fill any number of roles in the office. What we have seen, although it's not reflected in the budget, is that there, I think, is a need for us to have a real estate team. We've been working on a lot of ordinance amendments for zoning and land use and enforcement. And that has taken up attorney time, but we don't right now have sort of a dedicated real estate team, so to speak. I kind of have informally put something together, but we might look to formalize that for next year. So that's really only possibly a preview of coming attractions. I think the other outstanding issue is the outside counsel budget, which continues to be an unpredictable factor in the budget. Our current outside counsel budget numbers are driven primarily by a number of these wrongful conviction lawsuits in which multiple police officers are sued. That requires an attorney for each police officer, so we have multiple outside counsel on each of these cases. There are currently, I think, 5 of them, with a couple more in the wings. We're not really able to discuss them individually, obviously, but I did speak with the attorney who kind of quarterbacks a lot of these for our office, and I think we can expect more of the same numbers in the coming year as some of these cases work their way towards either mediation or a trial, and other cases move into the discovery phase, all of that, which is time intensive. So we do have, I think, a flat budget for outside counsel. We just submitted an amendment proposal to increase outside counsel, which I think will probably be coming before you soon. And as I said, I think we expect pretty much something similar next year. We can never predict who's going to sue us and why. I think based on the knowledge we have now, I think that's kind of where we stand with the outside counsel budget. We do have 2 litigators who have been able to take on a lot of the sub-role in the police cases, so to a certain extent, we have not had to assign that work to outside counsel. But again, these multiple defendant lawsuits have required us to have multiple outside counsel on them. We're happy to take questions, but that's kind of the summary I think that I have at this point.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that presentation. And we'll now take questions from the committee about the proposed budget for Corporation Counsel's Office. Questions from the committee? Alder Fester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just looking for information regarding the LCI attorney and the 72 liens that have been imposed so far. When, those are hard to really collect. Have we collected anything, or how does it work? How do we collect liens? But you have to sell.
I'm sorry, and the number apparently is 275, so it was my mistake.
Okay, so not
misspoke on that, which is even better. The liens are generated by fines, and I think the LCI office can explain the detail of that, but there are appeals which are heard by hearing officers. Our attorneys assist the hearing officers at LCI putting together the appeals. And where there are defaults or continued violations, then fines are imposed and liens can be placed on the property. So that's basically how it works. I don't have a figure for you, but I'm sure I could get it.
I'm sure when LCI comes before us, we can
Yeah.
ask.
I think we've read about some of the more high-profile work that they have been doing.
Yes, and I guess I'm just curious as to, how we collect them, because some of them, if you're putting liens on their homes, you can't necessarily collect right away.
Right, liens generally sit on the property until such time as the property is sold, and in order to clear the title, the lien needs to be paid off.
Right, so it's a long-term.
That's right, it's not.
Reimbursement.
Right, it's not an immediate,
Right.
an immediate payment, if you will.
It's a way to secure that payment somehow, some kind of mechanism to
Yeah,
hopefully secure.
and that's where I was kind of going, because a lien is not something we see the results right away. It's something that is a long-term. It's not a short-term sale, it's a long-term sale.
Right, it's not like a parking ticket where you.
Correct,
Right.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we wouldn't be able to make assumptions about liens in terms of their impact on the revenue side of the general fund budget. And I think the point of the fines and ultimately liens is to change behavior. That's the whole point of it. We don't actually want that revenue. We want people to change their behavior. So I think what LCI is before us, we're talking about.
Yes.
Right, yeah, no, I think that we're always looking for compliance.
Are you working on any high-profile cases now that may not be in this budget, might be down the road? I mean, what's the caseload like regarding your department alone?
Well-
You said you mentioned that the attorneys we granted last budget were very helpful in decreasing the caseloads, I'm assuming.
Well, that, our attorneys, caseload means different things to different attorneys. Our litigators, I think, generally have an average of 30 to 35 cases apiece. And the performance indicators show some of those numbers. Rod Williams has a caseload of 486. But that includes a lot of our tax appeals.
Okay.
So, it's kind of all different relative, and our transaction lawyers all do any number of transactions for different departments who need contracts for vendors.
Okay.
So, and some cases are the slip and fall type of cases, and, motor vehicle accidents are a little simpler than some of our more complicated litigation cases. So it's kind of hard. It's a little bit of, apples to oranges when we try to explain that.
Okay, that was helpful. And I think it was when you renew the software, we had spoken a little bit about AI. Have you given that any thought? Because I see that there's no capital projects, although AI would be a software that could probably come out of your department budget. But is there any talk about, AI helping or guiding you with some of the reporting and?
Well, funny you should ask. We did explore AI. We had to renew our Westlaw contract. And we did explore the AI option, which is costs twice as much as the option without the AI, which is what we currently are contracted for. I have access to the AI option through my Westlaw account that I have at the law school because I'm an adjunct at Quinnipiac. And I think it's terrific. So we did talk to Mr. Gizzi about whether we might be able to find a way to increase our budget it's under the library budget, by the way, in our figures. So, but I'm very impressed with it. It is not the type of thing that you see lawyers get sanctioned for. Sometimes where they try to write a brief with ChatGPT that doesn't cite any real cases and kind of makes up nonsense. But the AI version of Westlaw gives you the links to the actual cases, and you can set it for the state or federal district that you want to research. And then it also, at the bottom of the sort of the answer, the summary answer, it gives you the actual relevant portions of the cases or statutes and regulations. So I think it's worth exploring if it's a situation where we have the resources for it.
You know, and you mentioned it costs double the amount,
Yes.
but with that in mind, will it take cases away from maybe outside lawyers where those amounts will decrease, or even your caseload, making things more,
Well,
you know, like where
it won't unfortunately give us a new lawyer, so
no,
we can't, you know, but I think it
productivity.
would be very useful as a time saver for the attorneys, because I think the question that I asked, it took me like 3 minutes or something for me to get the answer. And then I asked a follow-up question and got more information in another 3 minutes. So I think it would be very useful as a time saver. And, you know, so that would probably allow attorneys to have some more time to take on other work. And there's plenty of other work to go around, such as advising departments and, you know,
Well, that was kind of
answering
where I
other
was
questions.
going. So it helps with productivity. It could help possibly decrease the cost of outside attorneys with some cases, maybe not all, because we still need the outside attorneys, but just trying to see where that.
Yeah, I think it would be very useful to have. I mean, I think there's always going to be a need for outside counsel. I just, you know, there are certain specialized cases that we just don't have the expertise in the office to handle. So I think, and for the multiple defendant cases, we're always going to need outside counsel. But I think it would make our attorneys more productive. So not because they won't do the work, but it'll get the work done faster.
Right. And the other question that is with AI, and maybe this is for you, Mr. Gizzi, what type of power do we need to run that software? Is this an IT question?
It's probably an online version for what
Yeah,
you're looking at. It'd just be an online version, just like anything else for doing research.
Yeah, I use that on my home computer, and I don't have an issue. I don't think it takes any more sort of computer resources, if you will.
Yeah, but we would check with IT.
Know a little bit about this. The power will come at Westlaw's location, not at ours.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, because we hear it, yeah, everything great about AI, but it's also.
It's an energy suck.
Yes, it's an energy suck, exactly. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder Festa. Further questions from colleagues for our friends from the Corporation Counsel's Office? I have one, perhaps two. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You made mention, in reference to the outside attorney's budget expenditures, you made reference to some amendment that you're preparing to submit to us. Is that an amendment to this proposed budget, or is that?
No, it's an amendment for the current budget.
Because we just dealt with one. We heard
labor relations.
Burcham, Moses, and Devlin on Monday, so there's another one.
Yes, it'll be on this Monday's meeting, I believe, is a communication.
Okay.
And Burcham Moses was just for labor relations.
Yeah. So is it Shipman and Goodwin for Board of Ed?
No, oh, no, it's not. The Board of Ed is their own. It's our usual cast of characters, the firms that handle our police cases and.
So we'll look forward to seeing that.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
You've been Corporation Counsel for a decade now?
No, it feels that way
Feels that
some
way,
days.
5 years? 5 years?
Since 2020, yes.
So you've seen the ebb and flow and been through a few cycles. I guess I'm just asking you a little bit more to reflect on this balance between building up expertise and people in your department versus hiring outside firms. I mean, I believe you when you say we'll always need outside firms. But
can you imagine a way where we would need fewer of them? Or is it hard for you to, I know there's an unpredictability here in terms of how many people sue us, but I'm just thinking about the in-house expertise. And, you know, there's a better contract holding on to people. I just want to know more kind of your feeling about building up the expertise so we can keep more of this work in-house.
The outside counsel that do the fancy, if you will, or sophisticated trial level work on the police cases, those we are always going to send outside, because not only do we have one attorney who kind of is the face of they're our lawyer, but they're supported by a couple of associates and paralegals. So there would be additional support staff we would also have to hire to have attorneys of that caliber, and we'd have to significantly increase our salaries in order to attract people. And as I said, currently the need that I am seeing is more in the area of real estate. And so what I have been doing is taking our newest attorney and using that attorney to do some more of the real estate zoning enforcement and housing code enforcement and the litigation aspects of that. Because frankly, it's easier for me to send a case to outside counsel because it's just one project. And so it's easier for them to take that project, they know how to litigate, they litigate that case, and then it gets resolved or tried and is brought to conclusion. In the office, it's helpful to have the relationships with city staff to deal with a lot of the real estate, the ordinance amendments, a lot of that kind of work that I'm seeing a significant increase in.
There's a lot of collaboration among departments when you're dealing
Yes.
with an ordinance amendment or a zoning text amendment or whatever it might be.
And having in-house people do that is a lot more effective. And we're also, I think, have an increase just in the general number of contracts. You know, we have CSA is doing a lot more work now, so we're getting a lot more contracts. So I think outside counsel isn't just sort of the only area of potential increase I could see. And, you know, it might be a good idea to increase attorneys who can handle those tasks in the office. And, yeah, we could, if we can develop our expertise, which we have now in the office, you know, one more litigator would keep us from sending some stuff outside, but we also need the expertise in the area of transactional work and real estate.
I see that Attorney Dupree.
Well, I just want to give you an example of how we've done that. I was brought in January 2021, and I've handled almost 48 discrimination complaints. Many of those would have gone to outside firms had I not been in the position. Of those 48, 20 have been dismissed at the first phase of review. 2 have been released to jurisdiction. We've had 10 no cause findings. 2 have settled, 2 have been withdrawn, and 12 remain open. And our outside counsel has only handled 11, and that's mostly been where I've had a personal conflict because I've been involved with the employee prior to assuming this position. So in that instance, we've effectuated actually what you're looking at. And so certainly what Pat described is another avenue to do exactly the same thing.
Thank you for that additional information. We appreciate it. Further questions from colleagues of our Corporation Counsel and her staff? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here and for your testimony.
Thank you.
I'll give them a moment to clear out. And of course, we always save the best for last, which is the Board of Alders / Office of Services. Do we see our illustrious director again? He'll be here in a moment. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Page 5 of the deck. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Yes, my name remains Al Lucas. I did not go to the probate court today. 66 Harbor Close, New Haven, Connecticut.
The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir.
You don't have a badge?
No.
There you go.
But I don't need it. Because our budget, like all the others, is a status quo budget. The only increase to what page we on, 27? Is that the page? No. Oh, no, in the packet. Page 6, 5 over 6. This is my first time seeing this packet. Okay, got it. So our budget is status quo budget. Only changes are contractual changes due to salary increases contractually. And then we will have a technical amendment due to the increases to the Board of Alders stipends that were approved by the voters in the last charter. So that will correct in the technical amendment. And other than that, that's all I have for the moment.
Thank you, Director Lucas, for that presentation. Questions from colleagues about the budget for this department, with which we are quite familiar? Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
Can I go?
You are excused. You are excused.
Thank you.
So that is the final department to give a budget workshop this evening. I just want to make a quick announcement before we call it an evening. Our next Finance Committee meeting is a week from today. That will be Thursday, the 20th. A whole nother list of departments to hear from. But before that, we'll have our first of 3 public hearings. And so the first public hearing on the budget is next Thursday, 20th, 6 o'clock here. And then we'll do the budget workshops after that. That may be a longer meeting, so I encourage colleagues to be ready for one of those long evenings that we have here in finance. Having said that, the motion is appropriate. Alder DeCoe.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We are adjourned.